Okay.
Right, he's in charge. I don't know what I'm talking.
Welcome everyone to today's
What
Q&A.
did these do? Hello. Don't do anything.
Okay, so welcome everyone today to today's Doctor Who Q&A. My name's Andy. Obviously, you all must know who this man is.
That's Andy. Round of applause for Andy.
Thank you. And a bigger round of applause for Mr. Colin Baker.
Well, I think you won that one. They like you better. I'll ask you questions.
We'll see. Okay.
What's it like being Andy?
It's fun, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get to come to events like this and talk to people like yourself.
Ooh. Oh, I'd rather be you than me. Right, fire away.
Okay. So I'd like to start with talking about beginnings of your tenure on Doctor Who. Obviously, you appeared on the show before you were the Doctor.
I did.
And
In an episode of Peter Davison's.
Okay. Talk about
Can
that.
you all hear all right? Yeah. Yeah, I played Maxil, who was a glorified guard on Gallifrey, and I got to shoot Peter Davison, which I've rather enjoyed ever since, really. One way of getting the job, isn't it? And I enjoyed doing that. And the producer, John Nathan Turner, rang me up about a year later and asked me if I'd like to become the Doctor. And I went, yeah, all right. So I did.
Excellent.
It's a nice short story,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Was expecting a little more, but that's fine. So obviously, when you became the Doctor, what was that like? What was the reaction like when you got the news, both from yourself and from the audience?
Well, I was pleased. I liked it. And it was a very strange beginning, because normally you have an end of a series and then you wait for months and the new Doctor turns up on the screen. For some reason, I don't know whose idea it was, they decided they'd have one full story with me at the end of Peter Davison's season, and then they'd have the big gap. But sadly, the first story with me was one where I was a complete nutcase. I'd been thrown into some state of disarray by the whole regeneration thing, and I was, well, mad. Because if you think about it, you know, you're changing every molecule of your body, so you're completely different, and yet you've still got the same memories, and you know, even your personality changes. The only thing that stays the same is the past, which you remember. And I suppose that's going to have an effect. When Peter took over, it made him all kind of weak and wobbly. And he was carried around for about 3 episodes by his hundreds of companions he had. Where they decided that was not a good idea, because his Doctor took a while to bed in. So they made mine manic, which in retrospect was probably also a bad idea. Because at the end of that first story, people did not like the Sixth Doctor. You know, he tried to strangle his companion, and he'd been a bit weird. And then to have a 9-month gap till the series came back didn't work in my favour very well.
A little bit of an own goal.
People
maybe.
thought we don't like this Sixth Doctor. And slowly I've had to win people round. Big Finish, if any of you buy Big Finish, Big Finish has done the job of making my Doctor acceptable. Because we had a long-term plan. You know, like all the best things in life, I mean, for instance, I bet that somebody else in this room will recognise this. People that you meet first time, and you think, I don't like you. 5 years later, it's your best friend. Yeah? Does that ring a chime? Whereas people you like straight away turn out to be horrible. So I quite liked the idea of peeling away the layers. Because think of the Harry Potter films. At the end of watching all of those films, one person stands out for me as the bravest person of the lot, and that's Snape. Now, for the majority of the Harry Potter films, you hate Snape. But when you find out who he is, like Darcy in Pride and Prejudice, you know, some people don't let you see the whole of them at the beginning. And that was the plan with my Doctor. to make him difficult to understand. But he comes from Gallifrey. He's got two hearts. He's seen things that nobody should see. Of course it's going to affect him. But it's quite brave to do that on television where we want to make an instant judgment.
Yeah.
But with the Sixth Doctor, it took a long while for him to bed in. And only if you've listened to all of Big Finish, not that I'm trying to sell Big Finish to you, but they've even given me a regeneration now, a proper regeneration, unlike that nonsense on television, where a little Scottish person wriggled around in my costume, a kind of midget crawling around inside my coat, making rude remarks about my size. So if you ever want to see how it really happened, listen to The Last Adventure on Big Finish.
Excellent.
It's a box set. It's very good.
Available to buy on...
Wherever you like.
Wherever you can get it, yeah. And what was it like for the Big Finish audiobooks? What was it like returning to do those?
Oh, that was brilliant. I mean, when I knew Gary Russell, who was at that time running Big Finish, and he said that they had a story for me, Peter and Sylvester. I can't remember what it was called now. There you go. And we did that, and then suddenly another one came along and another one. I think I've done about 100 now. I must check actually how many I've actually done. There was a point until, because originally Tom wouldn't do them, and then years later he decided perhaps he might come and do Big Finish audio.
Grace them with his presence.
But before he started, at that point I had done more Doctor Who stories than any other Doctor. Whereas on television I probably did less. But with the Big Finish audios added, I've done more. And they're all good, they're so good. Because audio, the only thing that's different between an audio story and television is seeing it. But if you haven't got to build expensive props, and the imagination's in your head, and each one of us sees something different.
Yeah.
When you're, if you think about it on audio, if someone says, "That is the most beautiful woman I have ever seen," if you say that line on television, half the audience is going, "Well, she's not all that." My Auntie Meg's better looking than her. Whereas on audio, bang, you supply the picture.
Yeah.
That's the scariest thing I've ever seen in your head. On television, it ain't scary.
And production
Well, it might
values
not
as
be.
well, because you can have
Yeah.
entire cities or
Yep.
everything without having to build anything.
Yeah.
And
Some of the best drama experiences I've ever had have been on audio. I've been listening to there used to be a lot of plays on the radio. Actually, there are again now on Radio 4 Extra. Lots of old ones, which are very good. And you arrive somewhere, listening on the radio, and you sit in the car park for 15 minutes because you want to hear the end of the play. And I listen to my own Big Finish audios as I'm driving up here. It was a 5-hour drive. Isn't the M6 lovely? And I will grab one of my old Big Finish audios off a shelf that I did about 4 years ago, and because it only takes 2 days to record them,
yeah.
so I've forgotten the story by then. I can listen to it just like you. I don't know how do I get out of that? Oh yeah, that's right. They're great.
And you don't have to be in full costume, obviously, when you record them.
And you don't have to wear that bloody awful costume. Although that, to be fair, I was never keen on that costume. I thought it was very much what someone in the 1980s thinks of as current. Because the 80s, I can't see many of you who were around in the 80s, but those few of us who were know that it was a time of not the best possible taste in anything, in music, in drama, in anything, and certainly not in clothing. So I was only grateful I was on the inside looking out. But years later, when the BBC has finally got marketing together, and they have all the little toys and the games and things, they have the little figures of all the doctors. And the one you can't get, because it sells out immediately, is mine. because the kids go, that one. It's colourful. It's bright. Children like bright things.
I think, like you were saying about your Doctor being embraced slowly over time, I think that costume itself has been embraced by fans in particular.
And of course, I get money for every one sold. I get 0.00001 of a penny for every 1,000 sold.
Right.
So I'm pennies in there.
We'll start opening up to questions from the audience. I've got a lot of people here, so we must have some questions between us. If anyone's got one, raise your hand. Okay, on the front row here.
When you were acting as the Doctor, which would you say was probably the scariest or creepiest monster or creature you had to deal with in the...
It's a difficult one because when you're working with them, they are decidedly not creepy or scary because there's some poor bloke stuck inside a costume who can't see where he's going. He's falling over all the time. In the question of the Dalek, with the case of the Daleks, they'll be moving about 1 centimetre a minute because they can't see anything and they keep falling over. And all you hear is muffled swear words from inside. Because all those bits that stick out have corresponding bits on the inside that stick out with screws and nuts and bolts in them. And they come out covered in little gouges. So they're not happy bunnies. So running away from a Dalek, you go, right, I'm going to run away from this dark. Oh, it's tedious. So working with monsters makes you very unscared of them. But there was one night, we'd finished recording Revelation of the Daleks. It was the last night in the studio, and I'd gone up to the bar at the BBC, which used to be there, to have, a lemonade to celebrate to the end of the day. And my dressing room was the other side of the studio from where we were. So I came down and I walked across the empty studio. They'd stripped all the sets out, and it was in the dark with just emergency lighting. And right in the middle was one Dalek. As I walked past, the eye stalk followed me, and I was scared. I was on my own in a big, dark, empty space with a Dalek with nobody inside it following me. Now, it turned out there was somebody inside it because it had been squeaking all day and he'd come back to oil it. So he was oiling it and moving it, and it coincided with my walking past. But for a moment, I got what it was that people were scared of with Daleks.
Excellent.
For me, the scariest are the silence. If you think of future episodes, the least scary, for me, it's a shame really because they should be the scariest. But because I know that all you have to do is... Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. The weeping angels. Just wink, don't blink, and you see, inferior doctors wouldn't know that. I can't remember which one it was. Oh, yes, you can.
Question over here.
Who is your favourite companion in Doctor Who?
Well, my favourite is Nicola Bryant because she was my companion. And my first one, I know I had two, but Nicola was my first. And so, no question, she's my favourite. But if you removed her from the possibilities of the old companions, because she's one of my closest friends, is Leela, because Louise is a great friend of mine, and we've worked together quite a lot in the theatre. So she's my favourite. I'd love to see how Leela and the Sixth Doctor would interact. It could be quite interesting. Of the modern companions, who's my favourite? I really liked Freema.
Yeah,
She's not everybody's favourite, but I've met her a few times and she's just lovely. And I thought she got a kind of rough deal on the programme. I don't know why. I'm trying to remember why I think that. But I thought she was a really good companion. There's one or two I don't like, but I'm not going to tell you who they are. Not in public anyway.
I'll get it out of you later.
I'll tell you what, if you buy an autograph of me, I'll tell you. And other companions. I used to love Mary Tam as well. Because, and funny, her and Lala, the two of the funniest people I've ever met. A great sense of humour. And dear old Mary isn't with us anymore, bless her.
Yeah, just as a follow-up question to that one, other than yourself, of course, who's your
Patrick
favourite
Troughton.
doctor? Okay.
The reason is he did the hard job, the first regeneration. And if Patrick Troughton hadn't picked up that programme and spun it round and brought it back as something exactly the same but totally different, with his portrayal of the Doctor, we'd all be sitting in an empty room. Well, we wouldn't. Not if we were sitting in it, it wouldn't be empty. But you know what I mean? You'd be looking at an empty chair,
Yeah.
because I wouldn't be here. If Pat hadn't done what he did, then there wouldn't be a Doctor Who still surviving. And what he did was so clever. Proper actor he was. Total change of character, but a totally beguiling Doctor. I loved him. He was a nice man too.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's no other franchise that does that and carries on this continuity of over 50 years now, which is all because of that big gamble that they took with Patrick.
And nobody knows who actually was the person who said, how can we keep this programme going? Because this old bloke don't want to do it no more. He can't remember the lines anyway. None of us can. It's always been a Doctor's problem. First thing I saw when I rehearsed Doctor Who was all the words written all over the console, and that was John Pertwee's lines from years ago that he'd written on the middle of the TARDIS.
Any other questions from the audience? Okay, right at the back over there.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on the new series?
My new series is bloody good. I haven't seen any yet. I've got it recorded, and each week I haven't been home for some reason, and haven't had time during the next week to watch it. But I know I'm doing nothing tomorrow. So tomorrow I'm going to watch the 2 episodes that have already gone out, and in the evening I hope watch the 3rd. I've seen the trailers, like you all have. I think she has a quality that I've never seen before in a Doctor, which is lovely, which is joy. She seems to have a kind of huge joy at the whole experience of being alive and being the Doctor. She's very easy on the eye, which is quite nice. I must confess, watching Doctor Who, I've never fancied a Doctor before. And that's a novel experience. I just like what I hear about it. And to anyone who says the Doctor can't be female, if he changes every molecule, if the Doctor changes every molecule of the Gallifreyan body, except one molecule, why would that bit not change? Why? I can think of no reason. You know, Gallifreyans are Gallifreyans. We've already had Missy, for heaven's sake. Yeah. So it's acknowledged that it can happen. And all the only absurd thing is it hasn't happened before. So having seen other work she's done, I know she's a good actress. So I'm just looking forward to seeing it.
Okay, so no spoilers for Colin from the last few episodes of Doctor Who.
No spoilers. I just love the fact that it's finally happened. John Nathan Turner was the producer when I did it, and he was always teasing about that. He used to put stuff up on the notice board, recast Doctor as female, and people used to get jobs at the BBC in order to go into his office, jobs as cleaners. I know several journalists who've employed people who are cleaners at the BBC to give them information about what he's got on his planning schedule. So he used to play up to that and write nonsense.
Right. Another question, the woman in the steampunk. Did you have a question? That was your question as well. Okay. Next question, the Star Trek lad at the back.
What's the reaction to the costume Doctor?
Sorry?
What's the reaction of the costume Doctor?
What do I think of the costume I got? Well, I said earlier I didn't like it much. They asked me what I wanted, and the first thing I ever said to them was, why does it have to be a costume? You know, do you put a costume on when you get up in the morning? No. You have a selection of clothes, and you wear whatever you choose that day. And it struck me the Doctor would probably wear something that was appropriate to where he was, rather than something that made him stick out like a sore thumb. And they said, no, you have to have one costume because of the budget. Because if they have to give the Doctor a new costume for every episode, that there's an implied cost for the show. Whereas if he has one thing for 13 episodes, you don't have to worry about dressing the Doctor. And that's the reason he has a costume. So I said, well, I think you should wear something, you know, that enables him to disappear into the background occasionally, you know. Yeah, and what I described was pretty much what Christopher Eccleston got. You know, long black coat. Perfect. And that's what I ended up with. No, I ended up with that. And the poor designer was asked to design something totally tasteless. And she kept coming back with designs, and he said, no, too tasteful, too tasteful. So she went, that then, thinking he'd go, oh no, and he went, yeah, that'll do. So we were lumbered with it. But as you say, we have grown to like it. I'm quite fond of it. I've still got one version of it.
Right at the back over there, we'll come to you
Now
next.
that the Doctor's become a woman, which of your all previous companions would you choose to be the Doctor?
Which of my previous...
Which of any of the previous companions would you choose to be the Doctor if you could?
Well, there's no precedent for having companions as a Doctor. But you're saying one of the actresses could play the Doctor?
Any of them?
Any of them?
Yeah, like John Barron and Castle
Actresses like John Barrowman. Yes. You got that right, didn't you? I love John. Actually, John would be. If anyone could polarise opinion among fans, John Barrowman could certainly do that. Who would I have as the Doctor? Well, even though I was in the programme before and became the Doctor, and so did Peter Capaldi, there's not much precedent for casting a companion as the Doctor, but there's so many of them. You could confuse the world totally and have Katie Manning as the Doctor. Can you imagine that? For those of you who don't know Katie, she's as mad as a box of frogs. Who would be a good Doctor? Well, in terms of acting, to be honest, Louise Jameson would be a very good Doctor. And, you know, she'd play it completely differently to Leela, of course. And who else is there along the line there? Well, I'll say Freema too. Yeah, why not? Because, you know, now we've dipped our toes into the gender of the Doctor. There are all sorts of colours that we haven't examined yet. And why the hell wouldn't we have a minority as the Doctor?
So, next question, just down here. Yourself, yeah. So, next Doctor.
The next Doctor.
Is there anyone that you would pick as a future Doctor?
Probably. Who would I like as the Doctor? Oh, there's that bloke who plays Prince Philip in The Crown. Oh, no, he's already done it. No, he's already done it, hasn't he? I think we should go for more actresses, don't you? Miriam Margolyes. That's got a silence going across the room. Or, well, I'll tell you who I'd really like as the Doctor, and I'd come back if I could for a guest spot. And that's I don't know her name. Oh, what is her name? Jennifer, movie star. Jennifer Lawrence. I like Jennifer Lawrence as the Doctor. I'd be her companion.
Okay, next question. Do we have one over here somewhere? Before? Oh, yourself.
What did you think of the 50th anniversary special, like with the introduction of the War Doctor into the timeline?
John Hurt's War Doctor.
Yeah, I'm not as obsessed about all the what is correct or incorrect in the timeline. And John Hurt, fabulous actor, of course he is. You know the reason why John Hurt was in it, don't you? That's because Christopher Eccleston, they'd written some stuff for Eccleston in the story, and he wouldn't do it. So they suddenly had a storyline that they needed to slot into without rewriting the whole thing. Because, I mean, I don't know the ins and outs, but for a long while they weren't sure whether he would do it or not. So they just converted it to the War Doctor and got John Hurt in, which is a triumph. And I thought that scene that he had with, who was it, the companion he was with? It was a long scene in the middle with John Hurt and... who?
Yeah, Rose came back. Yeah, Rose
Yeah.
Taylor, yeah.
There, with Billy Piper.
Yeah.
That scene I thought was magnetic. It was so good. The thing itself, I was glad I wasn't in it. Put it that way. Because everyone said, did you want to be in it? No. Because as soon as you get all the Doctors in one story, it's got to be one heck of a story to absorb all that, give all the Doctors a fair crack of the whip, and still maintain a good story. If you think of all the big movies where they've tried to cram too many stars into them, it never works, actually.
Yeah.
So I was glad it was just David and Matt.
And Peter Capaldi's eyebrows as well, making an appearance.
And Peter Capaldi's eyebrows. The bit for me that was irritating beyond anything else was the kind of token inclusion of Tom. What was he? A curator. Who's the curator? Is he the fourth Doctor? Looks like him. So if he isn't, why is he there? And it was a kind of clumsy way to get the fans to think, we're being inclusive about the classics. And Tom, who's everybody's favourite. But I don't think he did Tom any favours, or the whole of Doctor Who any favours. And for people who had no interest in the past, there are an awful lot of people who watched Doctor Who since it came back.
Yeah.
And they would just be perplexed by it. What's that about? I think there'd have been a cleaner story if they hadn't done that. I'm being honest.
So you weren't in that, but you were in something else that celebrated the 50th anniversary.
Five-ish Doctors.
Five-ish Doctors, yeah.
Now that was fun too. We did that. It was Peter's idea, and I will doff my hat to Peter Davison, because he came up this day and rang us all up, and we all, well, I certainly went, yeah, of course, I'll do it. We all did it for nothing. Everyone who gave their services did it for nothing. And we squeezed down in the filming on days when we were free to do it, and had a ball. We got our families involved, which was nice. And it's the only thing I have ever filmed that I've watched more than 2 or 3 times, because every time I see it, it still makes me laugh.
Very funny, yeah.
Because it's just, it's funny. I think it's funny, and I enjoy it. And it was our kind of thank you. It really was our thank you to the fans. People have said, why don't you do another one? And we would all love to, but you can't do it for nothing twice.
Yeah.
So somebody would have to employ us, and it would have to be a story that was as good as, if not better than, the one we've already done.
On the screen now, that's the...
Yeah, there we are. But it was just such a lovely image, and even though the characters we play are not exactly us, I mean, I have never forced my children to sit down and watch my Doctor Who.
Yeah.
In fact, of my 4 daughters, only 2 of them have seen my old Doctor Who. I will tell you this, when they were young, I'm bored, Daddy, what is wrong? Nothing. What about one of these videos, I'd say, 2 doctors, it's wrong. No. So when it did come back, they were watching Eccleston. And then one of my daughters said, hang on a minute, Doctor, is that the thing that you did years ago? Yes. Do you want to watch them now? No, that's all right. So I'm certainly not big-headed in my own home. So we're all slightly different to the characters we play. But it kind of is a heightened version of who we are. I mean, I'm a bit louder than the other 2.
Okay, next question from the audience. Go.
I was saying, if you could, would you come back to Doctor Who in the show, maybe even with Jodie.
Oh yeah. Not half. I mean, it would have to be something different because, I sit out there signing autographs. In front of me are pictures, right, of me as Doctor Who, and occasionally a fond parent will bring along their child who doesn't really want to be here, and they say to them, we're coming to meet Doctor Who, and they look, is that him? Yes. They look at me and say, what time does he get here? And I can quite see their point, really. To put me in a programme, it would have to be something completely other. I couldn't be the Sixth Doctor.
You could be.
I don't look like him.
You could be another baddie and shoot the Doctor again.
I could be another baddie.
Your first,
Yep.
first appearance.
Yep. I could be the Doctor's new husband. I could be any number of things.
Okay, next question.
Do you ever take any props and stuff?
Did I take any props? I wish I'd taken more, because you don't realise when you're doing a thing what it's going to be like 40, 50 years later. And they all ended up in skips. There used to be a skip outside but as soon as the episode was over, they'd open up the big dock doors behind and then start chucking stuff into skips. And I would take some of the smaller things, and it wasn't stealing, nobody wanted them. I wish now I'd taken all the sets and everything. Could have made a fortune. So I took a Contron crystal from Mind Warp and things like that. But there are people who've got. Somebody showed me. What was it? Was it a Dalek? It was a Cyberman helmet, which apparently is one of the original ones, which his father used to work at the BBC, had brought home and stuck in a trunk at the end of the garden, and is one of the 1980s cyber heads. If I thought of doing that, well, I would just be selling it for money, so I'm glad I didn't. I'd have given it all to you. But if they'd have the sense to keep it all, the little tiny things I have got are kind of souvenirs for me, really.
Okay, we've probably got time for a couple more questions. One over here.
Hey Colin, we all know you treated badly at the end of Trial and Time Lord, but I wondered, how long would you stayed on as the Doctor by your own choice?
I very foolishly, when I started, said that I wanted to break Tom Baker's record, which is a bit uncool, isn't it? Really. I should have done what all the other actors. No, 3 years, quite enough. I don't want to get typecast. Why not? Being typecast as the Doctor, I can't think of things. I can think of a lot worse than that. Having your teeth taken out without painkillers. Yeah, but 7 years as the Doctor, I'd have enjoyed that, but it wasn't to be, of course. So I'd have probably stayed a few more years, certainly.
Would you like to get a proper regeneration?
Well, I did on audio.
Yeah. You did on audio.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering.
I'd never have got one as good as that on television. So I'm quite happy. I think all the regenerations, they're kind of a bit odd, some of them. And they've changed a lot, haven't they? What's the one where he stood like that and then light streamed out of him? I'd like it to go boom, and completely different. That's how I'd do it.
That happened a bit with Capaldi's introduction, I think. He was quite instantaneous.
Yeah.
We had a question from the gentleman in the house.
Colin, during your tenure, did you ever at any point have any input into character development?
Well, I mean, yes and no. Yes and no. I didn't have any input into the writing at all. But I talked a lot to John Nathan Turner, and he agreed with me on some things. So presumably he had input into those things as the programme continued. And Nicola Bryant and I, she played my companion. And what happened is, you see, the writers, they had us bickering at the beginning, and the next writer sees the bickering script and thinks, oh, they bicker. And so they had us bickering in the next story and the next story. And we kept saying we would like to evolve our relationship. And it wasn't that easy to get them to do it. So we did it ourselves. Because you can say a line in 100 different ways, and it could be written as two people bickering. But if you do it with a twinkle and a wink, and if you do it, in a completely different way, play against the lines, you can change the relationship without them realising you're changing it. And we did that. And Nicola and I deliberately, when we started the second season, the Trial of a Time Lord, we saw the whole first scene was whinge, whinge, whinge from her. And we just did it as a joke. And we laughed. And it showed affection between us, which was nice. So you can change it by playing it differently, which is what we did. But in terms of giving the ideas, some of the puns were mine, because John Nathan Turner liked that as well. But would you like some water, Perry, eh? Things like that, which are horrible, naff jokes, but it made us laugh at the time.
And you yourself have written stories for Doctor Who since then, haven't
I have, yeah.
You're the only Doctor to do so, I believe?
I believe so, yeah. I've written a graphic novel and 4 or 5 short stories.
Excellent.
I am brewing a Big Finish story in my head. So we'll have to see.
Oh, that'll be good. Okay, so thanks very much for coming and talking.
Thank you very much, all of you.
Thanks very much for coming, everyone. If you do have any other questions for Colin, make sure you go and visit him at his table. He's going to be here all day.
I am.
Selling you photographs and telling stories.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks. Thank you.
Leave me out. Go that way.